One day Luke tells us Jesus was spending time with a group that the Pharisees and legal experts would call deplorables in their day. Tax collectors and sinners is the description. But they were tuned in to what Jesus was saying. They were listening to him. He had their attention. And so in the course of what he said to them, he told the story. A certain man had two sons. It's interesting in this story, from that statement, you hear very little for a while about the father. The sons take center stage, certainly. And baby son has decided that living at home really is not what he wants right now. It cramps his style. Dad, inheritance now. According to Jewish practice, in this kind of a situation, his share of the family inheritance would have been 1/3. And Dad grants his requests. After a bit, he packs and heads out on his own. And out on his own, he does not do well. He wastes his wealth. He blows in the inheritance. He ultimately has to take on what for him was a demeaning job, feeding pigs, something that no Jewish boy would do if he had any option. And he finds himself going hungry, even wanting to eat what they're feeding the pigs. Can you relate? Ever been in a situation where you felt, well, life here is too confining? I want to try something different. I want to get away from the constraints. I don't want to get stuck in that rut. And the only person you have to deal with is this wonderful Father. This wonderful Father who has a bit of control in your life. In time, he discovers that baby son discovers he really didn't know as much as he thought he did. Finds himself penniless and friendless and in desperate circumstances. Times are tough. When we talk about this story, we don't talk as much about the older son because he is the responsible one. You know, in the studies that have been done in recent times about birth order in a family, the oldest son, the oldest child, so often is the responsible child, is the one that's a bit unpredictable. I remember Kevin Lehman, who did the birth order book and conducted birth order workshops, said one time, talking about the workshops, when we conduct a workshop, at a certain point in the workshop, we have breakout sessions. And so we'll have all the oldest children gather in the auditorium or sanctuary where we've been meeting, and we'll have all the middle children gather in another place. And he said, and then we will send all the babies off to a room far away where they can hurt no one but themselves. a bit cruel for Lehman to say that. But typically, and it was the case here, firstborn, the responsible one, stayed home, worked hard in the family business, done everything his father had hoped for until brother comes home. And baby son showed up. When he came to himself, he said, I'm really foolish. My father's hired hands are better situated than I am. I need to go home. I need to swallow my pride. I need to say, Father, I am no longer worthy to be called your son. I'm coming to apply for a job. Could you make me one of your hired hands? And you heard the story. Dad welcomed him. Dad saw him coming down the road a ways off, ran to meet him, hugged him, called for a robe to be thrown around him, called for a ring to put on his finger, called for the fattened calf to be slaughtered and prepared for a party, a celebration. For my son was dead and is alive. The older son came in from the field and heard all the commotion, found out what was going on, and he refused to take a part of it. His reply to his father is telling. He says, this son of yours, not my brother, this son of yours who's devoured your property with prostitutes, a clear assumption, has come back and you're doing all of this. And so the oldest son, clearly out of tune with the heart of his father. Isn't it interesting that we can do right things with the wrong attitude? Any one of us, conservatives, liberals, all face that danger. We can choose to do right things with a wrong attitude. And the older son was becoming lost in his own self-righteousness because of his anger toward and criticism of his brother. But we recover the fact that Dad is really the central figure in the story. Though we get lost in talking about the boys, Dad is the central figure in the story. He loves his sons. And he is willing to do what he can do to help them become the best that they can be. To give them opportunity to prove themselves, to give them opportunity even to blow it and recover. To give them opportunity to experience the depth of his love. He loves both of them and deals with each of them where each one is. Accepts each one as he is and does what he is able to do to provide support and help. What a great picture of fatherhood. And I think we've learned that Jesus' intention here was to paint a picture of God. And to help us feel the challenge of reflecting the very attitude of God in the challenge of interpersonal relationships and the challenge of parenting, in the challenge of fatherhood. I've been thinking this weekend again about Lloyd Young. my dad, the baby son of D.B. and Grace Young. Not an active churchgoer, not a professing Christian, though my grandmother, his mother, had been a very active Methodist on the north side of San Antonio, Texas. But when I came as a 17-year-old to tell him and Mama that I really felt like God was calling me to become a pastor, knowing that it could create stress, Mama reacted. It was hard for her to accept, but Daddy supported me. Daddy supported me. Daddy treated me the same as ever. Daddy made it possible for me to get through college, even though he did not live to see me graduate. And I thank God today for Lloyd Young and the contribution that he made to my life and the things that he helped me to learn about what it is to be a father. Read a little story about the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona. The world watched a powerful scene unfold on international television. Derek Redmond, runner from the United Kingdom, had dreamed of running in the 400-meter race. He dreamed of medaling in the 400-meter race. He'd been preparing literally for years for the Olympics. He started well in the race. But when he got around on the back stretch, he was sent sprawling by a torn hamstring. By sheer effort, he struggled to his feet in great pain and began hopping toward the finish line. Suddenly, his father was at his side to support him and said to him, choked with emotion, "Come on, son, let's finish this together." The crowd cheered and wept as the pair crossed the finish line. What a tremendous potential in being a parent, in being a father. And today, I'd like to be sure that we all thank God for every positive thing that our fathers have contributed to our lives. Pray with me.